listen to you guys to see how to guide development and how patches are rolled out. We have crowdfunding games that don't even exist unless you pay for it before it happens and you're able to get your feedback directly with your money. We're going to go into some of these issues today, and we're going to talk about some really long-running and well-loved properties, as well as a brand new game from a name that probably a lot of you are going to recognize. So, my name is Ben Kuchera. I'm the senior editor of the Penny Arcade Report, and just to get everyone on the same page, if you could go down the list and introduce yourself and talk about your game a little bit.
Sure. Hey guys, my name is Todd. I'm with the studio out of Atlanta called Panelist Studios, and we've been doing online games for quite a while. Our first game was Global Agenda. Our second game, and the one that we'll be talking about today, is a rebirth of Tribes called Tribes Ascend. We're real proud of it. So we'll be spending most of the time talking about Tribes. We also have been working on a new game called Smite, which is in the expo, so feel free to check that out as well. But real happy to be here and take your questions and talk some Tribes.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Roberts, so I have a new game called Star Citizen, which I think it's really me going back to create the space sim that I basically always wanted to create with Wing Commander, Privateer, and Freelancer, and do it upright, and I'm having a blast actually. It's fun, and I love doing it live with the community up front. It's brilliant. So, here we go.
Yeah, I'm Brian Ekman. I'm a creative director over at Piranha Games. We brought you MechWarrior Online recently in the last year. We love the fact that you're here to talk to us.
Hey guys, I'm Russ, Bullock, president at Piranha Games, and I'm in charge of the business development side. So I had a really great last 18 months. Well, okay, back up, the last 5 years or so. We're going to get into that story probably today. Some of you have heard it, but the MechWarrior story is kind of a long story of how we finally got to MechWarrior Online. So, but it was just a pleasure chasing that down and never giving up and trying to make the dream of bringing MechWarrior back a reality. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for coming.
Before we really dive into it, how cool is it that we're here in 2013 talking about an ongoing Tribes title, a hardcore MechWarrior game, and Chris Roberts is bringing us a new space title. No, on the flip side of that, when I say the words free to play, raise your hand if you have a positive connotation to it. Look at this crowd, this is wonderful. yeah, would be very happy with that. Especially on the forums and Twitter, a lot of people don't have kind of a positive look at free to play, and there's a lot of companies who have poisoned that well a little bit. For you guys who are doing free to play games, how do you fight that? Is that a PR issue? How do you kind of get the messaging out that this is a game that's worth playing even though it is free to play?
Thanks, Todd. Yeah, definitely the Tribes. I would say there was a big perception issue at the beginning. I think that we were pretty early as far as trying to do a free-to-play game that was also a competitive title. Tribes was always known as a skill-based game. Who here has played some Tribes game just so I get a sense? Okay, awesome. Wow, that's impressive. Sweet. See you guys online tonight. So Tribes, the original Tribes was, first game with drivable vehicles, first game with indoor-outdoor maps, first game with a massive number of people, first game that really combined Twitch skills with strategy and team-based strategy. We wanted to preserve all that stuff in the title, and when we announced that it was going to be free-to-play, I know a lot of people were just like, WTF, free-to-play Tribes. It's going to be pay to win, or it's going to be, it's going to change from the core game that we like. So there was definitely, I think, a lot of perception issues that we had to overcome. We've done that in a number of different ways, and it's certainly been a learning process for us. The community's helped, but a lot of what helped drive is the association that people had with the big skill base. So ultimately, any weapon that you buy, you know, these guys could meet you in the arena with a swing fuser that you get right out the bat and probably take you out if you're new. It doesn't matter how much you pay, and so that I think helped, but it wasn't automatic. The association was initially, I would say, negative, and that was something that we worked to overcome.
Well, I think for MechWarrior, it can be a similar story as far as the initial time we announced it, but it was really an education process, not just for the fans, but for ourselves. I mean, some of you guys that follow the product know that it was a long road. We were first dealing with the brand in late 2008, and we were chasing a full-on console, traditional console product, and we were, entrenched in that world, and can't say that we knew a lot about free-to-play at that point in time, and we were fighting a good fight, and that's where you run into a struggle where the publishers, and unless they can make, the industry was changing so fast, and unless they could sell, we have publishers tell us, publishers that don't even exist today because they've gone under, say if they can't sell 3 million units, they don't want to make it. And of course, it sounded absurd to us, but that was in the middle of 2008, 2009, this economic downturn, and they only thought they could sell 2 million units and maybe make, $60 million. I'm not sure what's wrong with, making that kind of profit in that kind of an economy, but, that's the way it was going, and it has gotten worse, since then on the console side. So we've not been successful, and when someone first mentioned it to us, we had to educate ourselves. At first we thought, what does that mean? Does that mean that MechWarrior has to be some super casual, caricature of itself and just something that would be, an abomination in the eyes of all MechWarrior players? And it didn't take very long for us to convince ourselves and educate ourselves and say, well, this is happening, it's happening right now, and we're seeing it. This is perfect. And so it was a few week process where we just fell completely in love with the free-to-play concept because it meant we could bring the MechWarrior game that we wanted and we felt the fans wanted to the marketplace. So what more could we ask for? It was just a great feeling. So we headed down that road, and of course we had to announce it and go through that process a little bit like Todd mentioned with the fans, and they thought of the MechWarrior games in the past in single-player scenarios, which is not a bad thought. That would be a lot of fun, but of course, this model, just in order to have a chance at revitalizing the MechWarrior brand, this was the path, and it was a path we felt would work really well. So we went through that process with our fans, and it didn't take long. They're all sharp people. They were very supportive. As we went out to our founders programs, and they just completely got behind us and bring the game back.
Now, with online games, it's relatively easy to go into the analytics and see how people play and what they pay for. And that's another thing that's very unique about the ecosystem we have now. It's also very easy for people to give you guys feedback on the forums, on Twitter, on fan blogs. What's kind of the largest discrepancy you've seen in terms of what people say and their actual activities in the game? Is there anything that people hate but they always pay for, or people say they love and completely leave in the store? Is there a lot of tension between those two aspects of how people interact with the game?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we notice on MechWarrior is things like items that are perceived to be pay to win generally get a big hoopla around, obviously, but tend to be the ones that are more purchased. Things that people want the most, like cosmetics, for us, at least, we haven't struck a chord with our community yet. They don't purchase a lot of them, which is kind of weird. So, we kind of try to build and deliver content that they requested, but we find that it's generally the less liked or less talked about content, or most talked about content, or most hated content on forums. That's the stuff that sells the most. So that's what we see.
Yeah, I would say it is kind of a known secret within the free-to-play industry that players tend to hate on pay-to-win or power items, but then they tend to buy them like crazy. And there have been a number of developers that have just shared that candidly. And so in tribes, the model is you start with free classes, then you can pay to unlock other classes and pay to unlock weapons faster. And so we certainly saw that weapons, as you would expect, is the highest selling category, actually classes and weapons, and then cosmetics is secondary. But also, you know, we actually introduced an option recently for people who didn't dig the free-to-play thing and just want to pay one price and get it all. So for us, free-to-play is probably the biggest advantage for hopefully players and developers is just a choice for the players around spending $0 to a lot of money to just like a single-player game. But as far as differences, weapons are always very popular. Cosmetics, people say, is the most pure model, but it can honestly, it can be a challenge for a developer to keep updates coming and pay the bills with a purely cosmetic model. Certainly a developer that are looking to do that, like Valve does too, they got a lot of resources. But that's not a model that's worked for everyone to date. It's probably the direction of things, but power items still tend to sell quite a bit, regardless of what players say.
How did the game do once you released that kind of pay once and get everything model? Was that a popular way for people to buy games?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we definitely saw a new influx of people. We had heard a lot of the community, like I said, at the early stages when people were free to play, and some people were like, they were kind of asking, begging for that option. By the time we introduced it, most of them had probably already decided whether they liked the game or not. But that said, anytime you have a package like that, it lets you get more visibility on the game, you can get back on Steam, you can get back on some other channels, and it was just another option for people to play the game. So it was good for the community because it brought in a new influx of players, and again, for our game, because it's positioned as a skill-based competitive game, any perception of pay to win is poison. And here we could tell people that if you're scared about how much time or money it's going to cost, you can buy it for $30, you know, just like you would any other shooter, less than many other shooters, and have everything that affects power in the game. And I think, again, that helped people that were scared about pay for power.
Now, Chris, you're in a slightly different position. You're dealing with a crowdfunding game, a partially crowdfunding game, with a high level of transparency, a very intricate campaign. There was an entire website built around it. And then when people said they wanted to donate via Kickstarter, that was set up. How do you balance the public's sense of ownership over the game in terms of how it was funded versus what you think is good design?
Well, I mean, I would say in general, there won't ever be anything in Star Citizen that isn't what I can see in Star Citizen. But that doesn't mean that I don't listen to what the community says. And there's a lot of times, as you know, and I think any game designer will tell you, that there's a lot of choices you make in game design. There's a lot of choices you make in terms of resources you'll spend, you know, whether you're going to go left or right in certain areas. And you know, from my standpoint, some of those choices are pretty equal to me. So a lot of times, in the old way, I would use my team as a sounding board. I would say, okay, well, I'm thinking we can go this way, we can go this way. These are the reasons why I like this way, these are the reasons why I like this way. I'm not, you know, 100% sure which way I really want to go, and then I would talk to the team and see what they said, and that would actually help me make my mind up which way I would go. And I wouldn't necessarily always go the way the majority of it would just be. The discussion would really solidify my opinions. And with the community around Star Citizen, that's very much the way I sort of feel. It's like it's a bigger sounding board, and it's actually quite great because there's a lot of times where we'll come up with some game mechanics and the community will sort of run it to the nth degree. You know, like we have ship insurance in the game, and you know, people are like, okay, well, what about insurance fraud? And you know, started to bring up all these aspects that happen in the real world. And we're like, oh yeah, that's we never. And that would have been something we probably wouldn't have seen until we got into beta. But now, because we're thinking about it, we can sort of at the early stage in the systems designed for it. And so I actually think it's going to, hopefully, my hope or theory is that it will make the process maybe a little better because we're sort of strawmanning a lot of the concepts and ideas through the crowd. When you've got 100,000 plus people giving you feedback, you know, everyone tends to come up with all the most sort of obscure iterations that can happen. And so I find it actually beneficial, and I also find it very useful for the team that works on the game because they're all incredibly incentivized because they feel directly connected to people that care about what they do every day. So they come into the office and you know they're all competing like, hey, can I show my work this week? And And they wouldn't have that happening in the traditional publishing model. So I'm actually having a lot of fun. I mean, maybe we can have this panel in 2 years' time. We could go back to that. But right now, it's actually very invigorating. And I think generally it's a positive thing. I sort of feel like what the big thing is, in the past, I would have fixed things in the next version of the game. You know, like Wing Commander 2 would have addressed some things in Wing Commander 1, whereas in this setup, what's happening is we're sort of even, it's live. We're getting to hear feedback and adapt to that feedback even before the game is out. So I think that's really net positive.
Was there something that everyone overwhelmingly wanted in the game that you hadn't really thought of and that you had to shift gears a little bit?
Well, there's a couple of really good instances of kind of, one, which I guess almost comes back to, we're not really sort of free to play. I don't know what the model is. We're like Build Wars 2, so what's that, pay to play, is it? Or, I don't know, whatever the industry phrase it is. But, yeah, so once you play it, there's no subscription, you can play as much, but we're also going to allow you, through gameplay, or you can buy some credits and buy some stuff in the game later on, so we're going to have to support the online universe. But there was when we first launched the game with the crowdfunding, I mean, the best example of the crowd actually telling you what they want and for a positive in terms of raising money was, we decided, well, most people in crowdfunding campaigns, they say, okay, at this level you get a digital version, at this level you get like a physical trinket, and you get more physical trinkets at this level. And I was like, well, no, I'm making privateer and freelancer, and the shift that you would have was always a big thing. I'm thinking, as a gameplay person, if I'm back in the project, it's nice to get a map or a manual and a hardback physical books, but really for me, I would like, hey, I'd like a little fancier ship. Don't give me the starter ship, give me a nicer ship. So we put these tiers in place where we had 5 different types of ships you could start with. And if you back the game for a larger amount, you would get the bigger ship. And when the campaign went, we were actually seeing people back multiple times. And we were like, why would you already got the game once? And then we started asking people, saying, oh, no, we want to collect the ships. This one's for Todd. and then everyone was asking, they were saying, please, look, I don't want to be that silly physical stuff. And I don't need the game, so can you just give me an add-on so I can get an extra ship? And we're like, wow, okay. And so we ran a poll for our community and said, okay, these are the options. And we had a lot of suggestions for things that people wanted to add to the campaign. And adding digital add-on ships was one of them, and other things like t-shirts, which we're wearing one right now. was another one. And the number one response came back was universally, everyone wanted digital add-on ships. So we added it to the campaign. And I think if we started the campaign with that as an option, people would have accused us of money grubbing and adding all these features on to grab money, but because the community said, no, they loudly said they wanted it, we put it on, and I was like, thank you so much for that. It helped us definitely raise some of the money we did. And it was a really great, learning thing for me to realize the power of the community you connected directly with and how they can sort of almost improve what we're doing, because we were listening along the way, and I think a lot of us listening and implementing some of the stuff that was being suggested enabled us to raise the sort of money we did, which was record-setting, which was fantastic. So thank you all.
One of the things is with dealing with people on the forums or in a crowdfunding situation is a lot of us don't have a background in game development. We don't know the true price of things. That came out with things with the Skullgirls Kickstarter, where they had to explain why it takes over $100,000 to create a new character in a 2D game. So, what is something in each of your games that the community has kind of overwhelmingly suggested or wanted that would be either impossible or prohibitively expensive? And how do you kind of get that message?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, with a community the size of a small city, a large city, depending where you live, we get a lot of feedback. We have 2 million posts on our forums, inside of a year. They let us know what they want, and it's a lot. I think the most creative thing I've seen is, you're going to be bringing up community warfare. Well, there's about 3,500 planets in the Lunar Sphere. So are they all going to be unique? Okay. Can you make a randomly generated level for us? Right. Yeah, I'll get into that too for sure. Yeah. No, the random generator. But cost-wise, you know, just two things. The cost of mechs costs around $60,000 to make. It takes a team of 10 people, starting with Alex. He does all our awesome concept work, right down to the right down to the animators, the modelers, the riggers, the people who actually do all the NDS, which is the data files. So it's quite expensive to put a mech in the game. It takes about 8 weeks from start to finish. Maps take about 3 months. And it's about a team of 7 people. So it's around anywhere from $70 to $250,000 to make a map because of the quality level. It's quite intense. I know people on our side always scream from our maps and faster, faster, faster. That's one of the reasons why it takes time. We have to play test them, we have to balance them, we have to get the first stuff out on a regular basis because it doesn't work. We have to keep in mind new features that are coming down the pipe. And you'll see that with the latest map we released, Trolling Desert, which is like 12v12 and 3D work are coming down in the next 3 or 4 months, so it's really important that we plan ahead. And so that's where the cost will go.
Well, I mean, it's probably fairly simple, but I mean, there's a lot of requests to have planet-side combat, which, by the way, the engine actually would support. It's just more a matter of detailing that to the level of everything. We want to have a style system. So long term, that will be part of the plan we just want to have at the beginning. Yeah, I mean, you know, we have. I mean, I don't think we've got quite as big as the universe as sort of the battle war, but we've got a lot of planets, and there's going to be a lot of unique locations, and all these things take a lot of money to build because they're incredibly detailed for this sort of next generation poly count. So I think just the idea whenever I see people going, why can't you seamlessly just fly down onto the planet and fly over it, and then you can visit, I don't know, like 10 cities and get off here. And yeah, that's, you know, I mean, some people spend $30 million doing a first-person shooter and then just have, you know, I don't know, like 20 or 30 levels. So that could just sort of give you an indication of the amount of time and effort it takes to do things at a very high level of fidelity. Having said that, we're going to try our best to get as much stuff in the game as possible, so we'll see.
Well, I think as far as misunderstanding the development process in general, we do get that sometimes, usually around allocation of resources. So an example would be, let's say we release an update that has, new maps, there are quite a few maps, in fact. Is Kate here? Where's Kate? There's Kate. That's high-res Kate, everybody, in the back. She makes a lot of maps. We released an update recently, and we had, you know, a bunch of new playable maps, and marina maps, and captured flag maps. So there was a bug in the game where ping on the scoreboard was broken, basically, so you couldn't see an accurate ping. So we got a lot of, you know, GG high-res, you can do 5 new maps, but you couldn't fix the ping. Kate actually couldn't fix the ping. You know, Kate was available, she does the levels. The program was actually not available, it was working on other tasks. So just the idea of how much specialization it takes to make a game, you know, you have, again, all these really talented individuals who are passionate about the property, but programmers are working on their highest priority programmer tasks, the level designers are working on that, and so internally you can't always make everything happen at once. We have fixed the ping bug, by the way, it's fixed now. Way too long, but it's fixed. So yeah, I think it's, as far as misunderstanding the development process, that's an example.
It's interesting when they talk about the amount of work that goes into the mechs. I talked to the team, I wanted to do a story about the design of mechs, because like I was lazy that day and didn't want to do a lot of work. Tell us how you made mechs, and just send some stuff over. Thinking it would be like a few details and some concept art. They sent me the sheer amount of materials and notes in different versions of the mechs, and the notes that go back and forth, and the number of people. And it turned into this intricate story, and it's amazing how many moving parts I think we kind of have this idea that someone sits down with a Wacom tablet and here's a Mech. So once you dig into it, it's fascinating just how incredibly in-depth the process to bring all these games to life really is. And the really good thing is everyone here, you're not kind of beholden to a big publisher. Which is good and bad. And all the good things are kind of self-explanatory. I want to know if there's anything you miss about being in the warm embrace of a large publisher working in that ecosystem. Is there any time you go, man, it would be great if Activision could just hand this away, or if there's anything from previous projects you would like to take advantage of?
Russ and Brian, don't answer that.
Yeah, you guys just say this. Are you waiting for your phone culture? Because you might want to.
I would love to answer that question. Prana Games has been around for a while. We're over a 13-year studio in Vancouver there, and you know we slogged it out for a long time. I mean, a really long time, and a lot of that was wonderful training. We probably wouldn't have been able to execute upon, you know, MechWarrior Online the way we did when we started if we didn't have all those years of really paying our dues, if you want to call it that. But you know, the publisher business and the work-for-hire business is extremely hard place for a third-party developer to exist. I mean, it's only gotten harder. When we started our company in 2000, a little different back then. There was actually work for, you know, third-party studios. Nowadays, it's a very small group of third-party developers that gets any kind of meaningful projects. So, you know, it's really tough out there, and it's hard on the team when you're working on a project that essentially you're encouraged not to ever talk to the customer, you know, just deliver for the milestone. And the team gets very fatigued very quickly, and usually you're, by the very end, the team, after dealing with, you know, restrictions of how we're put in place or changes they've made in the game, and you start to realize that the game that you were really excited about at the beginning isn't really going to be that good. And you're kind of like, you know, just really sucks the life out of everything. So I think, you know, the last few months of any work-for-hire project, the team is extremely fatigued. And now with MechWarrior Online, I think the last, you know, 2 years especially, we feel like a startup again. We have that energy, and the team agrees that even though they work really hard on MechWarrior Online, the energy level and the vitality level is sky high, even still, you know, on MechWarrior and at Piranha Games in general, about our future as a company. Because we really took a risk. You know, we did all our work for hard for so long, and Brian and I just one day said, this is it, you know, we're going for it. We're doing MechWarrior Online, and we're going to be a PC free-to-play company making AAA free-to-play products, and especially focusing in on the beloved PC franchises of the past and revitalizing them and bringing them back to relevancy using this business model. And we're either going to succeed or it'll be the last game we ever make. So that was very freeing, and so far it's been just so much fun. So we're really enjoying working again, being game developers, and so we just really appreciate all you guys' support. We just want to keep making games like MechWarrior, and you know, staying independent, working directly with our customers day by day. We essentially feel like we work with you guys hour by hour. I get hourly update emails. It's so addicting. Everything going on with MechWarrior Online, and so we feel like we're reacting hourly, and it's so much fun.
My short answer is definitely no. There is nothing I missed, but it's actually not for. I actually have very good relations, but I still do with the electronic arts guys, Microsoft guys. Everyone always treated me really well. But what I like about the process, which is you guys are doing, is it's the most efficient method to build your game because you're directly connected to the people who care about the game. You know, all a publisher ever really does is says, hey, I think there's going to be several million people that like your kind of game, so I'm going to front the money and get in the middle, and then I'm going to try and control the message, and I'm going to do this, and I want you to work with this digital platform we're not going over here, and can you push your game over here because we've got a shortage in this quarter. They're all business reasons, or they're trying are important, but you as a game designer, you don't really care about it. All I care about is making a really great game. And so going straight direct to the people that love the games is for me the most efficient manner, and it's fantastic. Right? And so for just pure efficiency reasons, definitely no, I miss nothing.
We've never known the warm embrace of a publisher. Well said. As far as the development process, anything that interferes between the developer and the gamer is bad, and publishers historically have done that, and even forums are too slow nowadays. We use them, but Kate, I mentioned, she's building a level, she's playing it with players on a public test server, she's in a Twitch channel, chatting in real time with them around what's good or what's bad. And many publishers, unfortunately, just come from a completely different model, and it's a very big ship to turn. So that's how we think about the development process. I do think publishers bring reach, and so the only advantage I can see for a studio use of our current resources, and right now Tribes is fortunately played across North America, it's played in Europe, we have a server in Australia, but there's some areas that we just don't have the resources to reach and that might enjoy our game, and so that's an area where I could see potentially, working with someone. But anything that interferes with the development process is something that we're not interested in.
So, I would love to open up the floor, and if there's anything I haven't asked or that you're curious about, please just form a queue in front of the microphone.
I think there might be one or two.
So my question is actually one that is sort of close to home for me. When I go to see a free-to-play game, I sort of have the same negative reaction immediately as what you're talking about. But what I want to know when I first go in, read the info page is, if I buy all the meaningful, non-cosmetic parts of this game, is it going to cost me $50, or is it going to cost me $150, or is it going to cost me $700, like Planet Side 2 would? What are your thoughts on games that try to sell themselves that this is a game, that you would probably buy for $60, but you can play it for free, but if you want, you can pay $700 for it? That really bugs me. I just want to know your thoughts on it.
Quickly, I would just say, of course, you could probably spend an awful lot of money in MechWarrior Online. It really becomes a debate as, I guess, what is the truly meaningful content to you. Because really there's no end, we hope, to making content for MechWarrior Online. We hope 3 years from now we're adding big features, we're adding more maps, more mechs. Theoretically, you could buy all these mechs and all these items, so the amount you could spend would probably be enormous come years and years from now. But I guess it depends what do you have to be competitive. You need to have a mech in each weight class and premium count possibly, so that probably you could spend a very reasonable amount too, less than maybe the retail game costs you, or similar to a retail game, and I think be very competitive. I guess that's my answer. I don't know, would you add?
Yeah, no, I think even just to go so far as all you would need is a mech, one mech, you could be competitive. You could experience pretty much the entire game with just the one mech. You might have to buy, actually, sorry, 3 mechs. 3 variants. But yeah, you can experience the entire game for that additional fee. So that could range from a few dollars to $30.
Thanks.
$30 Tribes.
Hi, so this question is primarily directed to Chris Roberts. But obviously there's always the contentious issue of pay to win, and that's always talked about. But also in a game like Star Citizen, it's so immersive, simulator, you almost feel like you could be living a life, and you're in the shoes of your pilot, where things like new ships, new modules, new weapons really feel like a sense of accomplishment or progression. But on the other hand, there's the reality that with a single purchase game, no subscription, you need money to fund the servers and the world and dev team over a long period of time. So, for instance, when you come across someone with a beautiful big ship, totally tricked out, you don't really know if they really do a lot of cool things in the game to earn it, or if they're reaching their pocket. So, what are your thoughts on kind of balancing the sense of progression or accomplishment for yourself and all those around you, versus the reality of needing to use microtransactions to fund, your dev team?
Okay, well, I think that's the perennial discussion pretty much in anything I have. has sort of potential ongoing. I mean, so for me, there's a couple of things. My definition of pay to win is you can buy something that you can't earn in game by just play, and that item gives you an unfair advantage over someone else, and I absolutely hate that. So there is nothing in Star Citizen, in the veteran, it's not live yet, that you will not be able to earn in game, and in fact there will be plenty of weapons and ships and items that you can only earn by in-game play. Now there will be, and by the way, we're not going to let you actually, all you'll be able to do, and we kind of need to do this because we need to support the game system universe going on, and we're probably not going to have enough new people coming in all the time buying a package, is you'll be able to buy some credits with money, and we're probably going to look at that on I don't know, whether a monthly basis or something, so someone can't just come and spend a whole bunch of money and sort of flood the economy. But for me, there's a lot of things that I just would like to see in terms of player progression. So we talked about when you buy a new ship and stuff. So I talked about having an age on the ships and even on the characters. So if you go and you see someone's got a brand new shiny ship, and you can sort of look at their history, and then you can look at someone who's got something that's a bit more beaten up, and the character's a bit more beaten up, you'll sort of have an idea of how much they've spent in the game, invested in the game. You can kind of discern whether someone's sort of supercharged themselves. But I mean, I would say that for me, it's important to make sure that the people that have lots of time can get all the stuff they want, but also the people, because there's a lot of Wing Commander fans and players out there that now have jobs and have kids, and they don't have earning all the galactic credits to do the stuff, and so for me, I think it's fair for those guys to say, okay, well, I'll let you get some credits because you want to focus on dogfighting, and you want to focus, because the whole thing in Star Citizen is a lot of different things you can do. You could be all into combat, or you could be into trading, and there's a lot of different areas you can focus on. So I don't want to give an unfair advantage to someone that's got all the time in the world, and I don't want to give an unfair advantage to someone who's got all the money in the world, and I'm trying to do a balance between the two. We'll see how it works out, because obviously the game's not out yet, but that's sort of my high-level view, and I'm going to try and be fair about it, and require certain things have to be going to the game.